Okay guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. It's Jay Ayyo. So for those of you who are new, this is where we turn viral moments into teachable lessons. And today we are going to be looking at something that has happened in the Caribbean region. So for most of you should be aware by now, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, was taken by the United States government, and this happened in the early morning on Saturday. Now, reason why I'm speaking about this has been a built up of several years, several months. It has intensified, but particularly the CARICOM, which is the equivalent of the United Nations, um, which included its Caribbean partners like Jamaica, Trinidad Tobago, Grenada, Guyana, just to name a few. The heads of government, which consists of about over a dozen prime ministers and presidents, were monitoring the situation with Venezuela and the ongoing escalation that was taking place. Now, for most people who aren't aware, uh, Venezuela is on the tip of South American um, region, and so there were issues that Venezuela was having with Trinidad and Tobago, and it wanted to garner more space um, region, and so there were issues that Venezuela was having with Trinidad and Tobago, and it wanted to garner more space in terms of oil, and also adding to the fact that Venezuela has one of, if not the largest oil reserve in the world, even greater than Dubai, even greater than Africa, United States, and Canada. So, is there more to it than what we know? Even though what we've been presented with is that um, we're just trying to set the rule of law. Now, the Caribbean has always taken the approach to monitor, they're closely monitored, but all the Caribbean nations in the Caribbean, in some way, shape, or form, work with the United States government, whether that's through trade agreements or um, communications on best practices and things that could be done in collaboration. And over the months, there was an escalation with the US, bombing allegedly boats in the sea that narcos or people doing drugs. Now, it was never confirmed, but that was what the United States was seeing. So the reason why I'm bringing up CARICOM is because this has happened in the Caribbean region, and this incident shut down all the airports on the eastern side. So Trinidad airport was shut down, Anguilla, Barbados. Uh, those tourists who were visiting those islands had to wait, as a matter of fact, because the FAA had to issue what we would call a flight warning to say basically make changes to flight plans, or airlines make changes because something has happened and it may impact. So the whole of Saturday, airlines were flying around Venezuela. Countries like the United Kingdom has said they want to look at the facts before giving a statement. Even before Nicolas Maduro's capture, he met with Chinese officials, and the Chinese and Russian are saying stuff, but they're not really saying stuff. So it kind of seems a bit cryptic. Um, Colombia has come out and said that they're not happy with it. Uh, Cuba's president has said they're not happy with it. Also, the new mayor of New York City has kind of despised it and come out and says not in agreement with it. However, the United States will do what the United States do. Um, I'm only talking about it because it happen to have impact the Caribbean region, and that's an area of interest for me when it comes to certain reporting. Um, Other Colombia has kind of like put soldiers on their borders because they do expect influx of refugees from Venezuela. Mixed feelings across North and South America. In terms of Venezuelans have said, oh, they're happy about it. Political leaders are somewhat still a bit shocked. Some politicians are asking for NATO to have an immediate meeting, or rather, not NATO, UN to have an important meeting to what we would call the Security Council to discuss the matter on what has taken place. And so I think it is going to be particularly of interest what happens with Venezuela going forward. It has been said from reliable sources that uh, the superpower intends to run Venezuela and create a transition. But I do want to make a statement or point out to the fact that any country that was invaded by a certain superpower never really bounced back. Whether we look at Haiti, Cuba, um, Grenada, you have Panama, you have Bolivia. Not too sure if the superpower invaded Bolivia, but there are certain countries in the region that have been invaded, and whether they have come back to some normalcy is to be questioned or is to be seen. There has been speculations about whether it's for natural resources or for oil. One may never know, but it seems there's an ulterior motive, and it was always viewed that the Venezuelan president, which in this case is Maduro, has always been viewed the illegitimate leader. But what creates the contention is that how do you just take a head of state just like that in the middle of the night and without any just cause? Because it wasn't as if they got an airplane down and they did an extradition, and an extradition has different legal processes and legal requirements. This is more of a, lack of better word, kidnapping, abduction, maybe. It was done in a military manner and force as would be expected, but you would think it's civil war that's happening within that country. And so it borders a lot of um, contention because a lot of diplomatic channels, a lot of negotiation, a lot of different things were happening and were not aligning. So it must have been a last resort for the superpower to do this. But I think what it really shows other countries around the globe is that they should be nervous. This could happen to them. you know one could disappear and never be seen again. Is that the attitude and diplomacy that we want to engage in, or do we want to behave in a manner where intimidation is the rule of law and not having discussions and open statements and talking back and forth, and equally not taking a stance, Caricom, um, of the approach of monitoring and doing the statements of zone of peace and zone of peace. At some point, even if you're trading with the biggest partner in the world, you do have to differentiate right from wrong. And the lesson of it is that even if you're the only one standing, always stand up for what is right, even if it may cost you. But understandably, looking at what it may cost versus what you need could be the deciding factor of the approach you take. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next video.